Hello, everyone. This is Independent Conservative. Thank you guys for joining me once again. I want to talk about your favorite incoming mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani, and his attempts to essentially end New York City's sweep of homeless encampments. Now, apparently, this sweep of homeless encampments, getting rid of the homeless people on the streets and so forth, was started under former Mayor Eric Adams, but incoming Mayor Zohran Mamdani wants to end that program. Now, obviously, this is insane. This is crazy because but at the same time, I'm not surprised. He's a socialist. I'm not surprised. And let me say this before I read this article to you guys. The smile of this man, Mamdani, is so, I don't know. I feel like, let me just say, I don't know if you guys can see this. I don't think you can see this. Probably can't see it that much here. But his smile, it seems so disingenuous. It seems dishonest. It seems sinister. Yeah, he's charismatic and all this kind of stuff, and he's good at talking and in his campaigning, he's good with convincing gullible New Yorkers to vote for him. I'm sorry if you're a New Yorker and you're watching this video. Yeah, you voted for him. You were gullible. You've been hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled. You've been led astray. Sorry, it's the truth. Even though he is all of those things, I just looking at him, I could tell his smiles it's like he's hiding something deep down on the inside of him. And I would argue, because he's a socialist, I believe socialists and communists are evil at heart. I just do. They have no morals. They have no sense of right or wrong. They're evil. And he's hiding something evil on the inside of him. But that's just my opinion, and I digress. Okay. I'm going to get right into this article, and we're going to have a discussion about whether or not his proposal to end the homeless encampment sweeps is a good idea. Okay. New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani is not planning to continue clearing out homeless encampments in his city when he takes office. The Democratic Socialist made his comments Thursday at a news conference when asked if he would continue the practice Mayor Eric Adams began. He said no, the city responded. And I'm going to tell you, it's some pretty interesting stuff in this article. Just listen to this stuff, man. Mamdani explained, quote, if you are not connecting homeless New Yorkers to the housing that they so desperately need, then you cannot deem anything you're doing to be a success. Socialists talk all the time. Okay, just put these homeless people in the shelters and everything will be all right. Put them in there, put them in that housing and everything will be all right. Let's read on. The mayor-elect said he plans to address the issue through his proposed Department of Community Safety. Kind of messes that. Department of Community Safety to connect those individuals to some form of housing. Quote, what we have seen in the treatment of homelessness as if it is a natural part of living in the city, when in fact it's more often a reflection of a political choice being made time and time again, he added. Like what, Mamdani? Like what? However, now listen to this, which is exactly what I was thinking before I had even completed reading the article. Before I was like, oh yeah, this is not going to work. He says, however, a former New York City Police Department chief criticized Mamdani's plan to stop the sweeps and explained there was more to be considered when it came to the issue, per the New York Post. John Chell wrote in a social media post, quote, under current law, you generally cannot force individuals into shelter. And I don't think that's the case here in my city, in the city of Cleveland as well. You can't force people into shelter. Although I believe I had done an article, a video on that very subject months ago. And there was some kind of proposal to try to get it, to try to force people who did not want, who are a nuisance on the streets of the city of Cleveland, somehow force these people to be, to get off the streets or put them in shelter, whatever. I don't know if that fell through or not. But anyway, he says this individual says under current law, you generally cannot force individuals into shelter, and the majority refuse services. That was the same situation here in my city. I used to work for an outreach organization And we dealt with the homeless every single day. That was our thing. So I don't hear all this talk about, oh my God, oh, the poor homeless. I don't want to hear all that, because the homeless was our thing. That was what we dealt with. The program was geared towards that, just about. Even more so now. I've heard it is even more so now than it was when I was working there. And I would say 99.9% of those homeless people didn't want help. You would try to guide them to shelters. They didn't want help. What they wanted was a handout to continue doing what they were doing. But I'm going to go on. Outreach, this individual says, does not automatically mean acceptance. Absolutely. Ending street intervention programs before building sufficient housing, shelter, and treatment capacity is not a plan. It's a gamble. Absolutely. Before building sufficient housing, shelter, and treatment capacity. We'll get into that. Those resources must be created first and clearly codified. Otherwise, the predictable result will be a sharp rise in encampments, declining street conditions, and serious quality of life impact across our neighborhoods, he added, highlighting the fact that it appeared Mamdani's plan was more socialist rhetoric that would not work in the real world. And absolutely right. This is the problem with a lot of these socialists and communists. They just see something and say, oh, this is what we need to do. We'll do this. And because these other people and these capitalists, they don't know what they're doing. They're hungry. They're greedy. They don't know what they're doing. We'll just take, and then give. They think they have no concept of consequences. No concept of consequences. This is what screwed up Lenin's communist regime in Russia in the early 1900s, around 1917, 1918, when he initiated the economic plans for Russia under communism, not looking at the consequences of hoarding by force all of the farmers' grain and food and taking all their possessions from them. Eventually, you was going to run out of that, and you weren't going to be able to feed everyone. Then you have to ration it out. You can get this amount of bread. You get this amount of bread. You get this amount of butter. You get this amount of butter. You have to ration it out because, after all, you hoarded it from everyone. And you don't have no one reproducing this stuff. So now it's going to eventually run out. And millions of people starve to death. You stupid idiot. This is look, I'm just telling you like it is, man. I am not being nice to socialists. I am not being nice to communists. Why? They've been the destruction of city after city, country after country for decades. Why would I be nice to them? They're demons in human flesh. They're stupid. They're ignorant. They know nothing about nothing. And Mamdani is one of them. He's a slick talker. He's good looking. He's a slick talker. He knows how to articulate speeches and convince people to vote for him. But once he gets in office and the SHIT hits the fan, oh, I pray for the city of New York. I really do. But then at the same time, I'm not going to feel sorry for people. I don't feel sorry for people that willfully do dumb things in the face of enlightenment. I just don't. But anyway, yeah. As this individual said, it doesn't work. The socialist rhetoric doesn't work in the real world, boo-boo. There are consequences, Mamdani, consequences. You just can't come in and say steamroll the program thinking you're doing some great moral cause for the people. You're not, bro. You're just not. Anyway, the Post article said Mamdani did not offer specific details on how the issue would be addressed. Of course not. The purpose is to appeal to the heartstrings of gullible, blind, dumbed down people. Oh, he's right. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yes, these people need housing. Oh, yes, they do. They just need housing. If you put them in housing, everything will be okay. In 2022, a report. Now, get this. Check this out, man. In 2022, a report said 73% of border crossers and illegal aliens being bused to New York City from Texas were in homeless shelters that were filled to capacity. Read that again. In 2022, a report says 73% of border crossers and 73% of border crossers and illegal aliens being bused to New York City. Bust! They bust these cats to these places. The freak kind of mess is that? Were in homeless shelters that were filled to capacity. The Breitbart News article noted, quote, Adams, a proponent of the city's sanctuary policy, is now warning New Yorkers that the city is going to run out of funding for other priorities, and they may end up footing a $1 billion bill if the inflow of illegal immigration does not stop. No kidding. Conservatives have been saying that for the longest, you dumb bozo. More recently, the outlet reported New York City was going to spend $65 million on a homeless shelter for so-called transgender people. Now, let me go there real quick. Boom. Here's that article. Can't see it here. Oh, God, you can't see it. Anyway, here's an article that I cross-bedded over. It says, New York City to spend $65 million on homeless shelter for transgender people. This was since the 7th of August, 2025. They were going to spend $65 million on homeless shelters for transgender people. That's the end of that article, man. Look. I'm not going to go no further than that. That's the end of that article. What can you do, right? You know, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But as that chief was saying, the whole idea is ridiculous. It doesn't make any kind of sense for him to try to get rid of that program to begin with. As usual, socialists and communists do not think about consequences. But in reference to the homeless encampments, now I'm not from New York. Look, man, I'm not going to say I'm not from New York, so I'm not judging all of the variables. I'm not judging all of the people there, except the people that voted for Mamdani. I'm judging you. I'm judging you as being ignorant and letting them pull on your emotions. That's what I'm judging you for, because you could have did better. You could have did better. Now you're probably regretting it. But anyway, it's too late now. Anyway, here's the problem with Mamdani. You talk about, okay, I'm going to discontinue this homeless encampment sweep. I'm going to discontinue that and create some kind of housing to put these people in. The problem with that philosophy, okay, is, and I'm going to connect what I'm about to say back to what that chief of police was saying, is that a vast majority, I guarantee you this, a vast majority of the people that are homeless in New York City, just like here in the city of Cleveland, are on drugs, don't want to get any help. They're cool. They prefer to be the way they are. They have been that way for years. Now, we could argue, well, stuff hits you and you just give up. That's true. Stuff hits a person and they give up. They give up. That's true. But saying, hey, we're going to take these homeless people and we're going to put them in housing as an attempt to stop what's going on, it's not going to work. Their minds are poisoned by drugs. They have developed habits of laziness that will not change if you put them into some kind of housing paid for by taxpayers, hardworking people. It will not change, especially if your system is addicted to drugs. You dumbo. I'm talking about Mamdani. You dumbo. That's not going to work, bro. What they're going to do is take their drug habits and bring that to the house you put it in. What do you think? Why do you think a lot of these abandoned buildings and abandoned houses are filled with all kinds of needles and all condoms and everything else in them? Why do you think it's that way? Because the drug addicts take their habits and shoot up inside the shelters. Even though those are abandoned shelters, that's what they do because they're addicted, dummy. So what do you think they're going to do if you beautify a place for them and put them in it? They're going to do the same thing. These people need treatment, Mamdani. They need treatment. Are you willing to do that? Instead of stealing from the taxpayers and this misguided attempt of morality and compassion, you need to be thinking of the bigger picture, sir. But you're a socialist. You're not going to do it. You're a communist. You're not going to do it. Okay? You're not going to do it. You ain't going to do that. You're going to do like Lenin and the rest of them did. Starve or screw up a whole bunch of people, rather. Not starve, but screw up a whole bunch of people's lives. So that's what I wanted to say about that. It seems like every time he says something, it just irks me, Mamdani, because it's like I've been studying socialism and communism, the real deal, for quite some time, and I'm pretty keen on what these people are saying and what in the rhetoric they use and the terminology they use to deceive so many people. I'm pretty keen on it, and it's sickening and disgusting, unfortunately, that so many people are not keen to what these people are all about. They're going to screw up your city. They're going to screw up your state. Dude, wake the freaking heck up. Come on, man. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, it's not going to work, man. It's not going to work. What he should do is create some kind of program that's going to help these people get off of drugs if they want to. But if they don't want to, if they don't want to get off of drugs, if they don't want to do anything to better their lives, then they need to be ousted out, in my opinion. Anything about this, well, if they, and like they said, there was a law that says you can't force people to get off street or force them into shelters. But what if these people, these homeless people out here, are infringing on the freedom and rights of people who are not out there doing that? You can't even go to a park because you stepping over homeless people. You can't take your kids to a park because you stepping over homeless people. You stepping over boo-boo and pee and sexual fluids and everything else because of them. That's not being non-compassionate. That's not being non-compassionate. Or you're being mean-spirited, Mr. Bolin. That's not being mean-spirited. That's telling the truth. And if we be honest with ourselves, people know I'm telling the truth. Man, stop all this stupid stuff about compassion. Compassion has its place. Certain things need to be done apart from compassion. Let me end the video on this. For those of you who are Christians, okay? Would you agree? I'm talking about biblical Christians, not these crazy Christians. Not liberal Christians, which I don't believe are Christians anyway. What does the Bible teach about God? God is a God of love, isn't he? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. St. John chapter 3, verse 16. Everybody knows that verse. God showed his love towards us by sacrificing the best he had, his only begotten son, to die for people who would reject him. Some would even reject him, but he still gave his son for us, to die for us, a horrible, bloody, nauseating death. That's love. But guess what else God is? He's not only a God of love, he's a God of wrath. And his infinite wrath is angry at sin. And the Bible says he's going to punish sin and eradicate it and dump and cast those who have refused to accept God's offer of salvation into the lake of fire. Book of Revelation. I know that's not something people want to hear. I know they don't like it, but it is what it is. Would you argue that God is being harsh? Oh, that's not compassionate. Bull crap. He's shown his love and compassion by sacrificing his son. He shows his love and compassion by letting us wake up every morning and breathe air. It's not our air. Scientists didn't create the air. Humans didn't create the air. Tech giants didn't create the air. God did. Evolution didn't create the air. God did. What if he just said, I'm going to take air out of everybody's lungs because I just don't like them? But he allows us in his compassion and love and mercy to breathe air, to eat, to walk around, to let the sun shine on our ends. That's compassion. That's love, in addition to sacrifice his only begotten son. But there's a time and place for compassion and love. You've been given that, but there's going to come a time where judgment is going to come, and it ain't going to be compassion and love. It's going to be lake of fire for all eternity. You get my point? Same principle here. There's a time and place for compassion when it comes to these homeless people. There's a time and place for compassion, but there's also a time and place for sweeping the streets of the homeless and getting rid of them and putting them, well, I won't say getting rid of them, but sweeping the streets of the homeless. Don't latch on to what I said. Oh my God, he's just horrible. No, I'm not. Getting rid of these people and putting them in places where they won't be a hindrance to themselves or everyone else. That's not being non-compassionate. It's being reasonable and sensible. So I just wanted to say that, man. I feel like people should stop allowing these politicians to play on their emotions, because it's exactly what they do. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to end it on this. The politicians that do this the most are the Democrats. They do this every single time because every time I hear someone who is a Democrat, who will vote Democrat on a consistent basis, every time I hear them talk, for the most part, they're always talking about compassion and love and compassion. And oh God, what about all these Somalians that are being shipped back to their country and being deported back to their country in Minnesota? Oh, they're being separated from their families. Oh, please, oh God, they're crying and boo. That's emotion, pure emotion. Forget about the fact that these people over there, 99.999999% of them are on welfare and hoarding workers' money. Forget about the fact that there's over $1 million. I forget. It's millions of dollars in money that's being scammed and sent over to Somalia to a terrorist organization. Man, you want to be slapped? But because we've been brainwashed, but because these Democrat voters have been brainwashed in their to respond only to emotion by the mainstream liberal media, that's all they do. Oh God. Every single time, that's all they do is talk about emotion. We need to be compassionate. We need to be kind. Really? There's a time and place for kindness. There's a time and place for compassion. But then there's also a time and place for critical thinking and a time and place for judgment and taking action. You've had your opportunity for kindness. You've had your opportunity for gentleness and compassion. They've had the opportunity and they didn't take the opportunity. They rejected the opportunity. Now, what do you think people are going to keep doing? Showing you kindness, showing you compassion forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and never judging, never taking action to start cleaning up things? That's wrong. Period. Bottom line. Let me quit, man. I go all day with this. What is that bull crap? It's time and place for everything, man. Read the book of Ecclesiastes. Time and place for everything. But I just wanted to say that. What do you guys think about Mamdani? What do you think about his proposal to stop the sweeping of the homeless encampments? Do you think that's a good proposal or do you think it's retarded? I think it's retarded. What do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all. See you again.